is Kevin Bully, and I'm pleased to welcome you to this event. I'm the president and CEO of the research and advisory firm NIRAC. And Ripi and I have a relationship history now that goes back nearly a decade. We were introduced by a mutual friend and colleague at the University of Connecticut who proclaimed that our shared interests and passions around innovation and entrepreneurship would make for a good foundation, and they were entirely correct. Ripi and I have had an opportunity to work together as collaborators with client projects, NIRAC from the perspective of providing the information that helps to drive and support innovation needs, and Ripi obviously from his skills and best practices in the innovation framework and management. Together, we've not only become great collaborators in business, but we've become very close friends. And it is with great pleasure that I introduce Ripi to you here today, who will be talking about today's topic, the Innovation Framework, book number 3 in the 4-part series. Ripi, by all means, please proceed.
Good morning, everybody. This is Ripi Singh, and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Kevin, for the wonderful introduction. And this is the 3rd time of the 4-part series that we are doing. And Kevin has always been my side, not just these sessions, but for the last 10 years, almost, I've had a wonderful association. And thank you, Prashant, for facilitating this, for hosting this on Zoom for me. So up until now, we have gone through 2 sessions. In January, we talked about innovation purpose. In February, we talked about innovation value chain. And today, we're going to talk about innovation framework, and that's the how piece of it. We've gone through why and what. Now let's do how. And this how today is focused on building the culture of innovation in an organization. We're going to focus on the process piece today. 2 weeks from now, we'll come together and we'll discuss the people side of it. Let's recap. In January, we talked about innovation purpose. The hierarchy was, perhaps we are not even aware of why we are in business. Or perhaps we know why we're in business and it's all about making money for me. And some of us are in pursuit of technology. But then technology that we're developing, is that technology for the sake of technology? Or are we developing technology for the sake of society? Or are we developing technology for the sake of humanity? Whether you talk about circular economy or climate change, you could be pursuing a purpose at any of this level. Second session, February, we talked about innovation value chain, where we looked at how do you go from capturing marketplace insight, generating a bunch of ideas, qualifying them for business, and then executing them in a systematic, de-risked manner. We also looked at, during the innovation value chain, things like customer insight, competitive intelligence, staying in compliance with regulations. How do you screen those, creating business models, doing a check whether it meets your purpose or not, whether it meets your ethical standards or not, and then having a robust review process to de-risk the execution. All of this is wonderful. And these are the building blocks of building the culture of innovation, because for a corporate, innovation is essentially a portfolio of multiple projects, and each project effectively goes through each of these steps. But what kept me up at night for many years when I was managing technology for UTC and then Alstom, now GE, was how innovative are we? It is very easy to stand up and claim, we are innovative, we know what we are doing. But is there a way you can quantify that? We looked at various frameworks. Every management consulting firm provides you with some way to identify how innovative you are and how to become more innovative. Top ones are McKinsey, Boston Consulting, Johns Hopkins, Wharton Business School, and there are many more. And more lately, ISO has gotten into providing innovation management guidance through ISO 56000. I asked a question and I kind of drafted an answer. Can we rate the innovation profile of a company on a 5-star scale? And when you ask somebody how innovative you are on a 5-star rating, they would mostly say, oh, we are 4-star, we are pretty innovative. Okay. But you really cannot answer that question until you define what each one of them means. So we said, okay, 1-star is somebody who was just aware. They knew how to innovate, Blockbuster, Kodak, and they've done it at one time, but they just could not sustain for some reason or the other. And then a 5-star is company like Google and Apple, which is consistently innovating and changing the market and even changing human behavior. And then when you define a scale like this, many of us who thought we were 4-star, we say, well, we are somewhere in between. We are perhaps 3-star. Let's define the 2, 3, and 4. To me, 2-star is an agile follower where you are responding to market demand. You are following the needs of the customer. 3 is a smart forecaster where you are predicting what the customer will ask and developing products and services in anticipation of the customer demand. And that's where you compete in terms of product performance. Agile followers are competing mainly on time to market and cost to market. But smart forecasters are competing on product performance, product excellence, meeting the unmet needs of the customer. And 4-star is a visionary trendsetter where you are creating a product and creating a demand for that product or service or whatever, right? You are way out there, iPhone, right? We just took some examples and we started building, what the auto industry could be, what the airplane industry could be. No in-depth analysis over there. And then we extended it further to include more companies. We kind of looked at a whole bunch of them. Okay. The 2-star is a very, very crowded space. Why? Because the moment you make finance as your purpose, the moment you start looking at near-term objectives, you fall into this bucket. And it is crowded because anything below this is about to go extinct. So there are not many who stay at just aware level because this is your exit from the market. This is your retirement plan. My question to you would be, where are you today? Where would you like to be? Now, there are many characteristics that reflect a profile. I'll let you see this for 15 seconds. Now, the content I'm bringing to you is actually a part of a 2-day workshop, and I'm compressing it to 40 minutes. So I will be highlighting the important items only. The 2 important items here are how you engage with the customer and how you manage risk. Let's look at each one of them. When it comes to customer engagement, agile followers, and what keeps most companies to be an agile follower is where marketing and sales and new product development, new business development, new product development are operating in silos. The sales guy are selling what you created yesterday. And the product development guys will develop product only what the market will ask for, and they're waiting for business development people to bring the demand to them. And most of the time it is late. And that is what hurts most. If you want to go from being an agile follower to smart forecaster, you need to create a collaborative environment between your sales and marketing people and the new product development people. So that, the guys who are developing products, they're developing for the future, and the guys who are selling it, they are selling the future. And if you want to go to 4-star, the visionary trendsetter, the business development and product development have to become conjoined twins. They have to become one. It is so important because now you create a new product and then you actually go into selling that product, into creating the demand for that product, into educating the customers about that product. So this firewall has to disappear. These silos have to become porous, and then they have to completely disappear if you want to go from level 2 to level 4. In terms of risk capacity, agile followers, they are focused on stability, they're focused on speed. Okay. The visionary trendsetters on one side are taking a lot of risk, but they try to balance their risk with potential rewards, and they need a serious risk mitigation strategy. Of course, robust and resilient, they have so much money that they can afford to take some risk. Google doesn't care, lost a few dollars here and there trying to learn something. The people who are just aware, they actually have assumed stability. They're not even doing risk assessment. They're living in the dark, and that is a problem. So if you're ever under the impression that you have no risk, that means you just have not assessed it and you are staying in the dark, and that is a dangerous spot to be in. Let's look at what does leadership need to focus on. Okay, leadership needs to focus on the journey on the purpose profile chart. So we talked about hierarchy of innovation purpose, and we've talked about the various innovation profiles. Ideal situation is you want to be at the top side of it, but it's not really practical. It's very expensive. It requires a completely different mindset, timing, talent, everything you can think of. It's probably good, and you could still be an exemplary business if you're 4 on both sides. Typically, a startup is a visionary trendsetter, and they're mostly pushing on the technology side of it. And as they begin to grow, they scale up, they get into a strategic growth level. So they come a level down. And then over a period of time, most of the survivors are in the agile follower piece of it. And then at some point, if you stay there for a long time, if you are a survivor for a long time, you tend to become an endangered species. This is a slippery slope. One must recognize that, and one must accept. And if you have to figure out a way before you go extinct to turn it around. So some examples: BlackBerry, visionary. 21 years ago, 23 years ago, they came up with a smartphone. You get an email on phone and web on a phone and everything. But now they've kind of completely taken over by, we think of iPhone as the first smartphone. No, BlackBerry had it 10 years before iPhone came. Google has gone in this journey. Right? Chipotle has its own journey. I think of myself as started off a visionary trendsetter and then became forecaster, and I want to go back to being a visionary trendsetter. I'm working in that direction, but I discovered my purpose. So I went up. To start with, it was like, I want to be in a practice and make money, but then I realized that's not important. So we all have our journey, and I would like for you also to think about what has been your journey. Without in-depth analysis, I see Jeff Bezos gone that route, and I see Elon Musk completely obsessed about saving the planet with his visionary trend-setting technologies. We got to all have to figure out our own. So when it comes to growth along this profile, if you have half a dozen advisors, they will all give you what they're looking for. And it's a mumbo jumbo of multiple things. You need vision, you need objectives, you need planning, you need knowledge management, you need supply chain and all of that stuff. But I said, maybe what you need is 4 different activity tracks. Okay. The first track is having an innovation strategy. Where are you going? How will you compete? This is like the GPS. You sit in your car and you turn on the GPS. It knows where you are, and you just tell the GPS where you want to be, and GPS then finds out the fastest, shortest route for you. So innovation strategy is exactly like that, to figure out where you want to be and find out the fastest path to get there. Second thing is innovation capital. There the question is, what will take you there? What's your engine? What's the talent? What's the knowledge? What assets do you need to actually get to that point, right? This is the one that's driving your car. The third track is actual activity. How do you develop new stuff? It's the project execution. This is what we discussed in the innovation value chain last month. This is the actual driving as per the GPS. So innovation activity to support the innovation strategy. And finally, I don't want to leave the lean out. You have to make your car run smoothly. This is like the four-wheel alignment or the four-wheel balancing that you do so that you don't have a tire wear and tear and you don't have a unnecessary efficiency in the system. Let's look at each one of them separately. In terms of innovation strategy, the one star is complacent with the status quo. They don't feel the need to change anything. The agile followers, they are developing product services in response to market need. If you remember, this is how we had defined it earlier. The smart forecasters are developing products in anticipation of market needs. So deep market insight, it becomes important at level 3. Level 4, you are now creating the market along with offerings. So various tools you can use over there to grow from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, level 4, and become a 5-star company. Just for example, Industry 4.0. A level 2 company is probably looking at what is its impact, what will it do to me, how can I make sure that I still stay in business. But a 3-star company is saying, where is the opportunity here? Okay, 3D printing is coming. I don't have to worry about manufacturing. I want to become a 3D printer. Level 2 is thinking, let's hold on to my manufacturing machines and deny that 3D printing is coming. And level 3-star company is saying, 3D printing is here. Let's buy the printer. Let's learn it. Let's exploit the market. And visionary trendsetter is saying, all right, you know what? This 3D printer is actually going to be connected with a digital twin very soon. And I want to find a way to connect it with my customer's design team so that I can offer to the marketplace a service that nobody else is offering, where they can leverage my prototyping capability from their office. So that's how you think differently for each of those practices. Customer insight, I want to give you an example over here. We worked with a client. They were in the business of developing materials for IT memory, data storage, right? And the challenge was they were slowly losing business because they were a level 2 company. They were a 2-star business. They wait for the RFP. RFP says, I want materials with such and such specifications in 3 months. Their material development cycle is 2 years. They can't do it. They can never, ever meet the need for the customer. We went in and we quickly discovered that business development and product development are not in sync. So we switched the paradigm. We said, product development people, go sit with your customer's product development team and ask them, what do they need? What will they need 2 years from now? Because, Western Digital or Apple or anybody who's making hardware, they don't just wake up and write down the RFP. They have a technology roadmap. They know what they're developing in the next 5 years. They know what material they would need 3 years from now. We just did not ask them that question. We always ask them, where is your RFP? What do you need today? But instead, if we change the conversation to, hey, let's sit with your CTO, look at your technology roadmap and see what you would need 3 years from now so that we can develop that material for you, because my material development cycle is 2 years. We changed the paradigm. We moved that company. We gave them a whole bunch of recommendations, and they moved level up. The conversation really was from R&D speed up to actually a customer alignment. So that's a kind of a realization that comes when you start looking at your company in relation to an innovation profile. Building the capital piece of it. Now, innovation capital, the 1-star companies, they just tolerate competency gaps. Oh, okay, we'll fill it when we have time, when we have money, we'll do it because we're doing great. The followers are always filling the gap for today. They will not hire talent until the project comes in. And when the project comes in, then they're looking for people. And by the time they're trained, the project is now running behind schedule. You get into somehow chasing the schedule, somehow chasing the quality, and just doesn't help you in the long run. A 3-star company has no gaps to meet current needs. Okay, and they're always looking for, this is what I need in the future, and let's figure out a way to bring someone on board and train them so that tomorrow when I get that project, I have talent ready to address. That's what makes them smart forecasters. And visionary trendsetter, actually, they don't worry about gaps to meet future needs because they have brought in new talent, new knowledge to create products for the future. And they create those products and create the market demand. So, you're not chasing talent, but you're bringing the talent that is putting your business ahead of the competition. So the whole game around capital, around talent and knowledge is a significant differentiator going from level 2 to level 3 to level 4. There are various tools that you need to deploy for that progression. And today, the most important competency from that perspective is digital skills. We are in the middle of fourth industrial revolution, where the cyber world and the physical world is coming closer. That puts us in a situation where we somehow need to develop the skills for tomorrow, where we have to think about how will we work together with robots, together with artificial intelligence, and that even opens up new challenges with ethics that we need to think about. Let's look at actual innovation activity. Okay. We all can follow that basic process that we talked about in second session, the innovation value chain. The speed at which you do, the rigor with which you do, the constraints, the resources that you use are a little bit different. But other than that, the same basic process does work. One difference is one-star companies are probably not following that process. They just create it. Okay, serendipitous. Oh, this thing worked. Let's go. And as you get towards the 4-star, they actually have a portfolio of rapid innovations. They are running that innovation value chain in multiple fronts on multiple elements so that something will work very soon and whatever is successful will be brought to the market. Google, there is a website around Google Cemetery where they have buried all of the failed projects. That's been a part of their philosophy. Explore multiple things, whatever is successful, bring it to the market. So there are multiple tools that actually help you build that piece of the profile. There's nothing under robust and resilient over here because, how you create products does not make you robust. What makes you robust is your strategy and your talent. And we touched upon those two elements before in the previous 2 tracks. There's nothing in how you execute does not make you robust. One thing I would like to share is depending upon your purpose, objectives, and constraints, there are various forms of innovation. The 2 most popular that we always talk about are evolutionary innovation and disruptive innovation. Everybody just talks about those. But there are plenty more. There's eco-adaptive. You have a successful product in America and you want to take it to Mexico. You have to adopt it. There's a peripheral innovation. You got your smartphone, but then someone else is making all those protective devices that go along with the smartphone, the selfie sticks, the carry cases, the extra batteries, and all that stuff. Right? We've recently heard about frugal innovation, this book that came out called Jugaad. It is all about how countries and companies and people who have very limited resources are able to create innovative products. We all know about classified innovation. That's what military does a lot. It's all about secrecy. And then open innovation is exactly opposite of that, where you engage a lot of external participants into your innovation ecosystem. More recently, I'm beginning to see things like responsible innovation, which is about being socially conscious, about being sustainable. And then during COVID, we saw 2 things. We saw crisis innovation, where lives are at stake and you need to come up with an answer very, very quickly. How people came up with PPE, and then with vaccine, and then vaccine distribution. And every piece along the way was kind of dealt with in a crisis innovation model. So, the elements of the innovation value chain are same for each of these. Just the way they are applied is slightly different. It's very, very interesting, and all the details are in the book, that if you go from classified innovation to open innovation, it's still the same elements, but the behavior is slightly different. Let's talk about the last item, the lean innovation. This only goes up to level 3 here, because if you don't get lean by that, don't think about getting to level 4 and level 5. The big difference is, in Agile Follower, the alignment is between your processes and your project objectives. It's all about aligning for today. In a smart forecaster, your alignment is about your growth objectives. Your growth objectives are aligned with your customers' growth objectives, and then you engage your supply chain and your employees to have growth objectives aligned with you. If we are transforming our company through digital transformation, then I want my employees to be trained on digital transformation now, so that their growth objective, my growth objective, and my customers' growth objective, they are aligned. That's what we need to become a 3-star business. So those are essentially the tools that help you with that progression. I'll just give you an example. A few years ago, I was working on this world's largest solar boiler, and we needed to select a material that will have a certain lifetime service for this boiler out there, which hits 1,000 degrees. And we were asked to work with our in-house materials lab, because we believed that we had a world-class capability and we have competent material scientists. The challenge was alignment. I was looking towards them to tell me and give me an advice on what material to select. And they were in a wait and watch mode. They wanted to say, we are a lab, we test the material, you send me a sample, I'll give the material properties, and I'm done, right? So, on one side, well, I was looking ahead a few years. They were like, no, it's all about today. Whatever material you have, I'll give you the material properties. So it took us about a few months to align ourselves. And when we realized, things happened after that. Things really happened after that. So it's important, if you want to be innovative, if you want to create something for the first time in the world, that you align yourself with your suppliers, with your employees, with your customers. So think about it. All of these activities that we talked about, they have now been unscrambled and put into this matrix. And this matrix now defines, for each of those tracks, what tools and processes do you need to apply to make progress along the innovation profile level. Once you're past 3-star, you can call yourself as you have a culture of innovation, because now you're able to forecast where the market is going, and you align your talent, knowledge, project execution to be ahead of the competition, to be thinking at the level at which the demands will come. And that requires a perspective of every direction. That requires you to be looking at 360 degrees in 3D, not just front and back, but left and right and top and bottom in every direction. That's why I call my framework a 4-pi framework. It's 360 degrees in 3 dimensions. With that, I can put me in this place over here, where I think what I have is good, or even better in some cases, to what exists in the marketplace as of now. Let's compare our framework with various other activities that are going on in the world. One thing, ISO 56000. I actually happen to be on the ISO 56000 development team. And there are 9 or 10 of these standards which are coming out. 4 are already out. The rest of it will come out in the next few years. And they touch upon various pieces, right? So it's okay to pick ISO 56005 and see how you manage your IP, or ISO 56008 and see how you deal with your metrics. But you really need a framework which can bring all of those ISO elements together. ISO will get there, but they're not there yet. They will get there, hopefully very soon. Think about McKinsey. Their innovation framework is a 3-horizon innovation framework. The horizon 1 is about invent, develop, deploy. That's about today, and that effort should go down. The horizon 2 is about R&D, demonstrating, changing a few things. Okay, and horizon 3 is about far exploration, envisioning things that other people can't even see. Let's go to Mars, kind of a thing. It's very much similar to what we talk about: following the need, anticipating the need for 3-star, and creating something which is way out there for a visionary trendsetter. So our profiles align very well with McKinsey. McKinsey, of course, does not give you a recommendation on how to build it. If you look at the model from Booz and Company, and I think you can see where this is going, right? The 2-star is a market reader. What does the market need? That's being agile follower. Anticipating, need seekers. What will the customer need a few years from now? That's 3-star. Smart forecaster. 4-star, technology driver. Let's change the game. Okay. That's your visionary trendsetter. And in between, when they talk about other strategies around products and efficiencies, that's the 2 tracks that we have so far. Okay. So in some sense, we have figured our framework is very close to Booz and Company, or I should say, with a similar intent. Boston Consulting Group gave these 6 innovation profiles. And once again, our framework is very much aligned with that. Defenders are agile followers. Leverager is like the 3-star forecaster. Solution builder and creator is more like visionary trendsetter. Now, Johns Hopkins has a slightly different innovation framework. Okay, because they are mainly focused on capital first. Their talent is developing the roadmap. They're not really addressing the market. They're actually a 4-star business entity, or a 4-star entity. I shouldn't call it a business, because they do a lot more than what a traditional business would do. So within 4-star, within visionary trendsetter, they essentially have all of these 3 tracks. They focus on R&D base, they focus on challenges and resources, and then they create good products. Hopefully they have lean somewhere in between, or maybe they can afford to be not so lean. But essentially their framework is aligned with our tracks. So where does that bring us to? That brings us to a situation where, Booz and Company and McKinsey's are aligned with the profiles that we talked about. And Johns Hopkins is aligned with the tracks we had. We are the only ones who have a full matrix, and that matrix is self-compatible. Each piece is aligned with every other piece, and it seemed to work very well. We have tried it now on a dozen companies. Not everyone has actually deployed it in its entirety because of resource constraints, so to say, or I should say they haven't yet appreciated a missing piece. You know how decisions are made when you have to deploy a new process or a tool, right? So, but there is a real value in taking all of these pieces together. And this is what is in the volume 3 of Inspiring Next as an innovation framework. It talks about all of these tools and how to deploy them in a certain sequence to fully leverage the value, to fully leverage the capability, the capacity of your business to advance yourself along these profiles. Let's try and put some of these things together, okay? We've talked about purpose, profile, and what your journey is. And now we just discovered profile and practices. Okay? So in some sense, I can now put them all together to see where purpose, profile, practices can come together. And you can define, give you some selfie time over here, have a few seconds and think about where did your journey start? Where are you today? Where do you want to go next? And if you want to go that journey, then here is the recipe that can help you make that progress. Very good. This is described in the book. If you want to engage with me, please feel free to send me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to share where this is going. We have actually taken all of that and also put it into an innovation framework, an ERP type system, a management information system. So all of this engine can be put into a company in a manner that it brings value. Okay. There are software out there which provide you PLM, ERP, CRM. There really is nothing out there in terms of strategy framework. And that's the gap we are filling with our software called Frame. It's an enterprise innovation framework. Think of it, the value it will bring to you is exactly what Salesforce or Marketing 360 is doing for your marketing and sales department, what ERP systems are doing for your manufacturing and supply chain, what PLM is doing for your new product design development. Frame can do the same thing for your strategy and innovation management. It can help you capture the data from the market. It can help you align your talent, knowledge, resources with the requirements, with the projects, markets, processes, people. Every piece can be aligned through this framework. You can be highly effective and efficient in both innovation and strategy piece of it. Give it a try. Give us a call. We'll be happy to show you what it can do for you. So that brings us to a point where I just shared with you the innovation framework. Next, on April 1st, we will talk about innovation mindset, where we will go into how do you unshackle the past? How do you reboot the leadership? How do you reignite creativity? And more importantly, how do you embrace exploration and accept failure? By the way, I would highly encourage you to buy those books, and I can shamelessly promote and market because I do not take any profits out of the book. All of the royalties will go towards ocean cleanup because that's a part of my purpose. Purposeful innovation is not a slogan for me, but is really what is behind my innovation practice at the moment. And this is just one example of how I support it. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. These books are available on Amazon. And all of these sessions that I'm doing, they are being recorded. They are being put on YouTube. You can listen to the previous two. And today's thing will also be on LinkedIn by tomorrow morning. So this was a real pleasure engaging with you. Thank you very much for your time. Let's open up this channel for discussion now. Prashant, Kevin, back over to you. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much.
So if anyone has a question, you can unmute yourself and ask it, or you can post the questions in the chat box.
Hi, Ripi.
Hello.
Thanks for the talk today. It's very helpful. You mentioned about the cost neutrality aspect, and I'm still struggling with that because it seems to me any of these innovation processes, and as you start to develop them from being like a star 2 organization, which is where I feel our company is, to get it to a more evolved status, you need to spend some money, spend some time, spend some effort. And that's not an insignificant amount of time and effort to spend. So maybe someday you'll get there, right? If you become more of a trendsetter, the systems that you put in place will be more self-sustaining. But in the meantime, you're certainly not cost neutral. Anything that you can push back on higher management in an organization to try to justify the short-term costs in order to get a long-term bang for your buck, or?
Very, very good question. And this is something that I get to hear many, many times, right? Will it be cost neutral on the day one? No. Can it be cost neutral over the first 12 months? Possibly. Will it be cost beneficial over 2 to 3 years? Definitely yes. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So it is quite possible. but you build your portfolio in a manner where you have projects which are focused on lean and productivity and start saving you within about 3 months to 9 months, so that by the end of the year, you've brought some value back to the company. And then there are others which are taking money out. Having lived through that portfolio management piece with UTC for 3 years, it actually works, but it just takes about 3 to 6 months of patience before the first benefit starts to come up.
An additional comment as well, Ripi. I really enjoyed this session, and I felt like the first 2 sessions were good, and you presented good baseline information that we needed. And for today being kind of the consummation of, how do you actually do it? I thought it was really good.
Thank you.
Very impressive work, Ripi. This is the first time I'm attending, and I missed the first part of this one. But you're doing very impressive work. I should attend more regularly in the next session, your next sessions.
Would welcome that very much, Reddy. So you probably correlated to the example I was giving on the solar boiler.
Oh, I missed that.
Okay.
Yeah. One of these days I will even read your book. I'll try to read your book.
Please do so. And by the way, all the profits from the book go for ocean cleanup, because my practice now has a purpose, and purpose is towards sustainability. I look for clients who are focused on sustainability. If not, every other client that I have, there's a portion of the profits that go in that direction. Books, all profit, all royalties go towards ocean cleanup. So I can shamelessly market them because I'm not making any money out of these books.
Oh, I'm for sustainability and green revolution. Yes. Yeah. That's a good cause.
Very good. Anything else? I walked through the content a little bit faster. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and enjoy the book. If there's nothing else, I'll be happy to say thank you, everybody. I'm glad you joined. Please join us for the next one in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Ripi, thank you. You've done another wonderful presentation. We hope to see those who are in attendance today at the next event on April 1st that will cover the innovation mindset. And Ripi, as always, each and every time I listen to you speak and cover these materials, I take at least 1 or 2 additional new views away from our discussion, and it never ceases to amaze me. Thank you so much.